Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all the viewers on the internet and around the world. It is sunrise on YouTube, morning on Facebook, noon on Twitter, midday on Threads, afternoon on Twitch, sunset on Instagram, and evening on Rumble. I am your host, the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, and the master of the deceptive arts. We are broadcasting live directly from the sanctum of solitude and the citadel at the end of time. Good evening, everyone. I am the Ancient One, the Bachelor Supreme, the Phantom Menace, he who remains, the master of the deceptive arts, and I return once again with another heartfelt video as the voice of the Vasectomites. And today I wanted us to discuss the topic that you see on the screen, which is reasons why couples fight. And if I've said this once, then I must have said it 1,000 times. All human interaction leads to conflict. And I'll say it 1,001. All human interaction leads to conflict. And there are many reasons why this can be. And if you look in nature, what you'll see is that other than for territory and feeding, any other type of conflict in nature happens interspecies, right? Internally within the species, right? So effectively what I'm trying to say is that lions fight lions, tigers fight tigers, hyenas fight hyenas, gorillas fight gorillas, sharks will fight with sharks, and so on and so forth. Therefore, it stands to reason that humans will fight with humans. And it is my assessment that all human interaction, love, family, whether it's on a individual, social, collective, national level, international level, inevitably the conflict will be among ourselves. Today, we are going to look at an article that looks at some common reasons why people fight in the romance wars, or what you might call relationships or situationships or even marriage. In the pre-reading, I had the inclination to be dismissive initially about the reasons given in the article that we're going to read. But after an overview, I saw that not only are these reasons real and very, very true, and as well as relevant, they have contributed to the demise of most, if not each and every one of my relationships, or what I like to call the romance wars. I think the word relationship is very misleading, right? A relationship, the word actually means to the way you know someone or how you are associated with someone or something, right? Relationships is an indication of association. It's not just limited to love interests, desire, that kind of thing. So while I think of relationships, I'll think of, for instance, you and your father have a relationship, and that's a father and son relationship. You and your classmates have a relationship. Your classmates, right? You and your mother have a relationship, mother-child relationship, right? That's how you know each other. How do you know this person? She's my mother. How do you know him? He's my son. and or my daughter, or she's my daughter, and so forth, right? So relationships are not just limited to love entanglements. Actually, what we will see from the article today is that I've had most, if not all, of these issues that they're going to describe play out at some or other point in the romance wars that I was involved in personally. Then I realized, as I took a closer look, that most of these issues didn't just play out one by one. They played out simultaneously. It was never a case of just dealing with an individual issue and then when once that was concluded, then we would move on to the next issue and tackle that successfully and move on. No, it was never that. It was always a case of juggling several very serious, very life-threatening issues all at the same time for absolutely no reason. When you look at the magnitude, the consequences, and the outcomes, the catastrophic outcomes of these interactions, and then you assess the cause. So you look at what caused it. Someone wasn't feeling well, someone had a headache, and now someone is in hospital. That type of escalation, right, is really what you deal with on a day-to-day basis, simultaneously, on various different issues, serious issues at in the romance wars. Now I'm going to come out right from the beginning, right from the start, and blame the counterpart for all these problems and all these issues. I'm going to say it, these counterparts, along with the knee benders. The knee benders, they have their own issues. But I'm telling you, in my particular case, I blame the counterpart, each individual counterpart. I know some people might say, well, you're the common denominator. I don't care if I'm the common denominator. I don't care if I'm the common denominator, right? I blame the counterpart for each and every single one of these issues. Now, let's be fair. I know that you and I, we haven't known each other for a long time. And you might ask yourself, and you might say to yourself, but Ancient One, what about you? You're not perfect. You're not a perfect human being, right? What about the part that you played in the romance wars? Wars, romance wars or otherwise, require two parties. Because the counterpart wasn't going at it by themselves. You must have participated somehow. Surely, Ancient One, in all these situations, you are not an innocent victim. You are not a helpless participant, right? Or an innocent bystander. No. You were in there. You were in there. And I would respond to you that in fact, I am an innocent participant. I am the helpless victim, right? In all these romance wars. That's the position that I take, and I'm gonna hold that position. Not only that, I plan to justify my position. While I have many reasons, I mean many reasons, and many examples, and great anecdotal evidence, right? Where I would say one thing and be deliberately misunderstood. You know, when you have the clarity of words and you indicate to someone and you say to someone, freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy, and then they go and get a vasectomy without freezing their sperm, and they'll say, oh, but the Ancient One told me to go get a vasectomy and now I can't have kids when I told you to go freeze your sperm. And you completely ignored that because it was inconvenient and you went straight for the vasectomy. You have ever seen a situation where people deliberately misunderstand? I've had those situations with the counterpart all the time, where I'd say, freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. And they say, oh, okay, so you're saying that I shouldn't freeze my sperm? I shouldn't get a vasectomy? Oh, I should just, go ahead without a condom? Okay, I'm going to do that. Now I'll say, man, if you do that, if you go into these romance wars without a vasectomy, you're going to get destroyed. You're going to get destroyed. And not only that, when you do get destroyed, I'm going to be standing there telling you that I told you so. Because I did. I told you, go freeze your sperm and go get a vasectomy and then go into these romance wars with your eyes wide open. But no. No. You wanna prove that you have charisma. You have riz. I'm using the vocabulary from the previous video, right? In an attempt to update my vocabulary and at least my synapses, right? I have no problem with getting new information. I don't care what vocabulary you use. I want to know what everything means, right? But indeed, I've been there where I was deliberately misunderstood, and that's why I have so many examples. I'm not gonna go through all of them to support my evidence, to support my case, right, against the counterpart, and say this is all the counterpart's fault. Surely the counterpart too, especially if they start to talk about their useless emotions, surely they can come up with some evidence against me. And I'm going to tell you, whatever evidence they produce, whatever they say, you can ignore that evidence. You can ignore that evidence outright because I have the checkmate. I have the final move, and it's going to be simple and easy to grasp, and I will demonstrate it to you at my earliest convenience. And this is it. My biggest evidence against the counterpart is this. During the course of that romance war, during the course of that so-called love relationship, there was no love. I felt some love, but I can tell you that counterpart up to no good. Anyway, here's my evidence. The majority of that romance or that relationship, I spent that time dealing with the problems and issues that I never had before the relationship started and I did not have after the relationship ended. And this is my biggest evidence right here. And this is why myself and most men come out of the romance wars, and once they've had it, they never return. This is why. Because the problems that you experience in the romance wars, the issues you experience, once you're out of the romance wars, you never experience any of those issues. I don't care if it's from folding towels to loading the dishwasher. You never deal with any of those issues. And everything seems to go fairly smoothly. You don't have no financial problems. You're never late for anything. You don't have unnecessary delays. Nobody's breaking your stuff. I'll give you an example. I had a 3 terabyte plug-in hard drive. You had to plug the thing into the socket and then into your computer. That worked magnificently. It had all of my things on there, and it worked magnificently for years. Then a counterpart came to visit, and that thing never worked again. I did everything to try get it repaired so I could return all my stuff and regain all my stuff, and nothing. All gone. Right? And those type of issues, Those type of electrical computer issues, I never experienced those before and never experienced those issues again. Which leads me, and there were other things, there were other issues where even I said to the counterpart, I was like, none of these things ever happened in my life. I don't mean like in this apartment, I mean anywhere in my life until you got here, right? It's a simple deduction. And when the romance wars end, for you, it indicates the end of all of these problems, as they did for me. However, notice how when these problems ended for me, they happened to continue and persist for the counterpart even long after the breakup. For some, even years later. So the problems continued into the counterpart's next relationship and the relationship after that. But for me, they ended completely. This is my biggest evidence. And you've seen this too in your own life, especially as a man, as a bachelor. After the relationship ends, men are usually very disappointed at first, very heartbroken. And frankly, we feel a little bit hard done and robbed. All right, you feel a little bit cheated, not just because the counterpart had infidelity or affairs or anything like that, but because of all what you gave in, and then the disrespect, the betrayal, the backstabbing, the lies, the manipulation, the sabotage, right? The sabotage of you, your life, your system. You have a system that works, that gets you money. They sabotage the system by simply adding things that mean nothing. Instead of working every Saturday, now you have to go to a baby shower. Instead of working on Saturday, now you have to go drive out of town to go visit some nephew in prison. In a place where, quite frankly, you would have never had to go. You would have never had to go had you just been a bachelor. These are the kinds of things where you should be putting in that extra time, that overtime, every time. But this time, where are you? You at some maximum security prison, bringing snacks, putting money into his account so he can buy snacks. Ridiculous, right? So these are the things that make men feel cheated, right? Because you spend so much time fixing other people's problems, investing in other people's outcomes, working on other people's issues, trying to secure other people's success. All the while, those very same people they don't care about their own success. All they care about is undermining your success. And you've seen that, right? Have you seen a man who cares more about his wife's failing business than the wife cares? Where she took money from the house, spent that money, gave it to a stranger to rent a building she couldn't manage, she couldn't keep clean, she couldn't keep the lights on, couldn't keep the water running, couldn't keep the plumbing up to date, couldn't keep up with the electric, couldn't keep up with the paint, couldn't keep up with the doors, the hinges, the furniture, the carpets, the tiles, right? Couldn't keep up with any of that security, right? Locking up windows, keeping the windows clean. She couldn't keep up with any of the maintenance, right? So the husband is more interested in keeping that boutique alive, but she knows that thing died a long time ago. She's just taking money from the home and pumping it into that thing, paying her employees to do absolutely nothing, right? And all they do is sit around all day talking about you, right? Instead of making money. You ever seen a man who cares more about the success of his kids, than what the kids care about their own success? The father's investing in tutors and sports programs, and all the kid wants to do is play video games and sit around the house eating. And you're trying to invest in this kid's future, and he has absolutely no interest in learning anything. Then what you see is that upon ending that relationship, under those circumstances, that woman and those children, they never rise beyond where the man left them. So if he left them in a suburban house, that's where they stay. Or they go back, or they go worse. But they never go from a suburban home into a mansion, right? Into a villa and a yacht. They never do that. It's either they go from the suburban home right into an apartment, right? They never do better than what the man handed out to them. Instead, they just get worse. This is always the case, right? There's a statistic that says that after divorce, a man's life increases by about 10%, right? It gets better by about 10 to 15%, whereas a counterpart's life will decrease in quality by about 25%. So you get a smaller house, smaller car, you make less money, you start going out less, you start dressing up less, you start spending less Amazon boxes, less makeup, less, right? And for the man, he starts to be able to travel more. He can date, he can work harder, he can do extra time, overtime. Even if he has the kids come over on that weekend, he doesn't have to do extra time. But every other weekend, he's there killing it. He can do the 90-day schedule where he's working, killing it for 90 days, and then take a 2-week vacation with the kids and so forth, right? So their life gets worse, but all the while, you were there doing things on their behalf, and while you were killing yourself to make them whole, they were entitled spoiled ingrates who never appreciated anything. However, once these people are removed from your life, you know, all those problems, all those issues, right? All those, all that comes along with them goes away, right? Once they are removed, so are all of their issues and problems and concerns, right? It is for this reason why I say this equation, I give this formula: no wife plus no kids equals no problems. And why I say that the counterpart, in fact, is the problem. There was a psychological study that was done. I believe it was by the psychologist John Gottman, but don't quote me on that. That said around 69%, in other words, 70% of the problems in relationships are not resolvable. 70% of the things that you deal with in relationships have no resolution. They have no solution. They cannot be solved. This tells you that these are not literal issues. So these are not issues that you deal with that have to do with car, house, clothing, food, shelter, transportation, that kind of thing, security. These are emotional issues. These are emotional issues. Things like being nagged, being frustrated, being unhappy. These are all emotional issues, right? Income issues can be resolved simply by getting more money. But emotional spending issues cannot be resolved by simply not spending money. Think about that. Like, if you have emotional spending, right? In other words, if you're what they call a shopaholic, you will spend until there's no more money left. And that's really the aim, right? To spend until there's no more money left. This is because somebody may have grown up in poverty or experienced some level of poverty, and they promised themselves that they would always have enough money to get whatever they wanted whenever they wanted. And then what they do is they go out of their way to want ridiculous things. And for the fear of having that feeling that says I cannot have everything. Right? It's not a fear of missing out. It's like a fear of suffering. It's like if I cannot have what I want, that means one day I won't be able to have what I need, which is delusional paranoia, right? That's in this world where you can order pretty much anything you want on your phone, there's no reason why you can't have whatever you want. What will happen though is you run out of money. You'll run out of money before the world runs out of things. That's for sure. That's for sure, right? And the more things you buy, the more things they'll give you to buy. They'll give you the same thing in 100 different colors and then give you a discount for one. You know, things like health issues. Health issues can be resolved by adopting a healthy lifestyle, right? In other words, you just don't eat food and you exercise more, right? But unhealthy eating cannot be fixed. Like if you are eating through your psychosis, in other words, eating your emotions, that's what they call it. Eating your emotions. In other words, you're battling your psychosis through mostly sugar, and fat. You cannot fix that by simply not eating. This is the issue, right? The solution, the general solution for the problem doesn't apply to these people because most of these issues are mental and emotional. So there's a thing in there that once she's bought the house, she's gonna wanna remodel it. She's gonna wanna tear it down and rebuild it from the inside, which makes absolutely no sense because she has no design experience, she has no building experience, she has no architectural experience, right? And yet here she is redesigning a home. This is how ridiculous it gets. You've seen people redesign a whole kitchen with no construction experience whatsoever. And there you are, rebuilding a kitchen, you know? These issues are emotional issues, and emotional issues are perpetual and unending, as you will see in today's article. You could resolve any simple issue and upset a counterpart by either knowing something that they don't know, making them feel inadequate, or ending a conversation, right? You can upset a counterpart by simply ending a conversation that they wanted to extend into an argument. And now here you are arguing over not being able to have an argument. And the perpetual cycle continues, right? This is the nature of the counterpart. But ask yourself this then. Would you even be having these meaningless arguments and these meaningless conversations if the counterpart wasn't even there? And as we look through these issues, just think about how many of them simply just don't exist if you are not in the romance wars. So, the title of today's article is called 10 Common Reasons Couples Fight and How to Resolve Them. The good part about this article is that it's got some recommendations at the bottom, so we'll see how valid these actually are. The contributing writer, it credits Dr. or Professor R.K. Suri. It doesn't say who else was, involved, so we can credit Professor R.K. Suri for this information. It was published on the 6th of February 2025, which is earlier in the year, and it comes from the website www.talktoangel.com, and there's the link to the actual website if you want to go look at it yourself, but we'll read it here together now. It says relationships are even the most loving ones can experience their fair share of disagreements and arguments. It's natural for couples to have differences. Yeah, of course, they have nothing but differences. But how they handle these disagreements is crucial in maintaining a healthy relationship. Is there such a thing though? I don't think I've experienced that. I've attempted to, but I don't even think such a thing is possible. It's an oxymoron. It's like a contradiction. Often, the reasons couples fight can stem from simple misunderstandings or deeper, unresolved issues. In this blog, we'll discuss 10 common reasons couples argue and offer strategies to resolve these conflicts. Number one, communication breakdown. Oh boy, communication. Communication is very often the problem. Somebody's talking, somebody's listening, or somebody's talking and the other one's not listening, or somebody's listening and not understanding. Communication is a terrible thing. Human beings are just terrible at communicating, to be honest with you. It's not just the counterparts that are bad at it. It's like everybody's bad at it. Your body language betrays you most of the time. Like your words say something, but your actions indicate something completely different. Communication, it says, is the cornerstone of any successful relationship. Maybe it's the cause of all your problems. But it's one of the most common reasons couples argue. You see, right there, right there. Arguing is a form of communication, right? Arguing can be an indication of, I don't know what, an attempt at getting the other person's attention. It could be attention grabbing or whatever the reason. I don't know. But arguing is communication. And some people can't tell the difference. That's really the issue. Misunderstandings or the failure to communicate effectively can lead to frustration and conflict, of course. Let's look at the resolution, right? Oh, by the way, all human interactions, I said, lead to conflict, and there you go, conflict. Resolution. Ensure that you both practice active listening. Oh, active listening. These people can go on forever, and you have things to do. You have a life to live, man. You don't have time to sit there and listen to somebody talk about nothing, you know? And it's different to what we do here. I come here and I have no choice but to be informative, and I have to give you information that is well researched and well thought out. So even if my own thoughts are not coherent and my own information is not understandable, the reading itself will be understandable. It'll be supplementary to everything that I either missed or left out or deliberately didn't mention, as not to spoil the information here. But you can tell that this is a concise form of communication that's well thought out and planned out, at least to a certain degree. I really couldn't be able to talk every single day off the top of my head. I'd just end up saying the same thing. Freeze sperm, get a vasectomy. Freeze sperm, get a vasectomy. No. Rather, we deal with the resolutions to your communications breakdown. So now you have to do active listening. You have to sit there and look her in the eyes and listen to her say, knock, knock. And then you have to say, who's there? I'm not doing that. It continues to say, this involves fully engaging in what your partner is saying without distractions. And reflecting on what you've heard. Oh, I'm so frustrated already. I'm already frustrated. I look at people on the internet and they get so animated by what they see. And I think to myself, how do you guys keep up that energy? How can you come on here and be at 100? And then you sort of look at what they're looking at. and then realize that they have to actually look at it, and their responses are just so genuine, right? Like you can't fake this all the way, man. You have to do active listening, and then you cannot be distracted. You can't be distracted by the phone. You can't be distracted by the TV. You can't be distracted by the computer, the tablet, the cup of tea that you want to drink. Um, and then you have to reflect on the knock knock joke that this person has been dying to tell you all day, and then it's not even funny. And if you have somebody like me in your life who has an obscure sense of humor, right? I have a pretty obscure sense of humor. You don't know what's gonna make me laugh, right? Sometimes you think I'm laughing at your joke, but I'm actually laughing at you. And quite frankly, I'm very often laughing at you. Um, but if you try to tell me jokes, man, it's not gonna land. It's really not gonna land. And there I have to be like grinning out of my teeth. Oh, you're so funny. Tell me another joke. Oh, I just died in my heart 1,000 times. It says make space for each other to express thoughts and feelings clearly without fear of judgment. Okay, so what if my thoughts and feelings are, can we sit quietly for the rest of the year and just not say anything? And if I need something, I'll just grin and be like, hey, coffee. And I need coffee, right? Not to me. Don't need more than that. You don't need to tell me what the coffee looks like, what you put in it. Just be like, here, coffee, and I'll drink it. Easy, right? Why we need so many words, right? Why we need so many words? But yes, yes, make space for each other to express your thoughts and feelings clearly without fear or judgment. So, what are they telling you? They're telling you you gotta listen and not judge. Good luck with all that. Number two, the most famous one of all, money problems can be a major source of stress in marriage, whether it's due to differences in spending habits, yeah, financial priorities, oh yeah, or worries about long term stability. You can lock them all up. You can lock them all up under money issues, right? Um, Start with the marriage stress, right? Marriage stress. You know how expensive weddings are. Maybe I'll read an article on how expensive the wedding day actually is, right? Some people spend years paying off that marriage, years just paying off the marriage, right? Just the wedding day, rather, paying off that wedding day, right? And that puts stress on you because you want to buy a house, you want to settle into your family home and build and build and build. And, you need money to do that. It says spending habits. Oh, the counterpart buys things just to try them, not like them, and throw them away. And then buys something else just to not like it and throw it away. There are things that you bought in your house. If you go through your purchase history, you need to go through your purchase history, like your Amazon history or whatever, and look how many things you bought that aren't even in the house. Just, and I know there's a man who'll do that, who just like, where's this, where's that, look for this, look for that, look for this, look for that, and then realize that most of those things aren't even there in the house anymore, right? So, and then of course you've got different priorities. She wants to go on a cruise for 3 weeks to a month, right? She wants to go to Europe, get off, walk back, and then sail back to wherever the hell you came from, get off, get in the car, and go home, and get there and then complain about why you don't have any money to buy the new house because you left it all on the cruise. And you know how these cruises are going to do you, right? So because you're on the boat and you don't have all the things you need, and even if you do, like you got to buy food and all kinds of things. So some of them will have food included. But most of the other things that you want, you have to buy them there. right? So like if you forgot your toothpaste, you gotta buy new toothpaste, right? You forgot your charger, you gotta buy a new charger. You have to buy that on the cruise. You're not gonna buy it anywhere else, right? You're not buying it in, and they are going to charge you a surplus that you cannot believe. I mean, just look around you. It is nothing but credit cards coming out because the cash is gone. It's just credit, credit, credit. And they take all that money. They'll take it from you too. And by the time you come home, you realize you've spent way more than what you thought you spent more than what you thought you could spend. That's how bad it is. It's not more than what you thought you would spend, right? Because you thought well, maybe I'll spend, you know, a little bit, and I'll use the credit card a little bit, but we'll be fine. No, no. You're gonna finish all your money. You're gonna max out 3 credit cards, and then you're gonna borrow more money and continue. Like it's gonna be bad. It's really going to be bad. Right, so let's look at some resolutions. The first is sit down together and create a budget that reflects both your financial goals. The counterpart is going to shred right through that budget. They are going to destroy everything about it. As soon as you show them the budget, they're going to take the budget, they're going to throw it away. Right? And you're going to be like, hey, what happened to the budget? Oh, no, never mind. Yeah, budget gone. Be open about your concerns and expectations around money and consider seeking advice from a financial counselor if needed. What good is that going to do? A financial counselor. What is he going to do? Be more careful, tell you to be more careful about your money? When you have somebody who's determined to spend every last dime, you know, and this is the problem. This is what men say. And they'll come in and tell a woman, "Oh, I make $100,000 a year. I make $75,000 a year." She's gonna spend every single dime of that. In her mind, she's like, "Okay, so I can make 50,000 from this guy. I can make 100,000. I can spend it on this or make him buy this and that." Like she's gonna spend all that money. And if you're the husband, whatever your salary is, she's got plans of her own for her salary. For your salary, I beg your pardon. She knows exactly what she's going to do with your salary. Hair, nails, new glasses, a new outfit, whatever. All kinds of things. So you can forget about that budget, and that counselor is not going to make a difference. Not a single counselor ever fixed a single problem in any marriage. Most marriages, when they go into counseling, it's an indication that things are so bad that they can't deal with them by themselves. And what that is it just gives you the permission you need to end it. You could say, well, we tried counseling, but it didn't work. So we divorced. And it's a common story. It's like, okay, let's go to counseling. We'll do counseling for 90 days. And after 90 days, I'm out. Why go to the counseling? Just leave. Why waste 90 days? It says transparency and teamwork in handling finances will help build trust. Yeah, you're doomed. You're absolutely doomed. Because if you're hoping to trust a counterpart with money, that's a big mistake. And you know it is. You know it's a very big mistake, but you're still gonna make that mistake anyway. No wonder why people fight about money. I mean, if you're with somebody who's bad with money and you're planning to be good with money, and make it grow, this is never gonna work out. It never does. It really never does. Jealousy and trust issues are next. Oh, this is a big one. Trust is fundamental to any relationship. When trust is broken, there's suspicion of dishonesty or infidelity. Yes, that's a normal one. Jealousy can arise and fuel arguments. Or if you are successful, right? I think there was a celebrity man. I won't say celebrity man, but there was a celebrity man. I won't mention anybody's name. If you know the story, you know the story. And he is maybe one of the most famous men in the history of the world. Like, this guy is tremendously famous, right? Movies and whatnot. He was dating a counterpart who, quite frankly, nobody knows who this counterpart is. Like, I could not identify. Of his counterparts, I could not identify one from the other. But I'm sure they can all identify him, but they are indistinguishable and unidentifiable from each other. And they said, "Hey, aren't you the Ancient One's girlfriend?" And she responded, "Oh, I'm so tired of being called the Ancient One's girlfriend. There's more to me than being the Ancient One's girlfriend." And of course, there wasn't, right? All she was the Ancient One's girlfriend. So, that type of jealousy, when you have success and your success is identifiable, or you have a talent and that talent is identifiable, in contrast to the counterpart, you see it all the time. The counterpart will create a set of circumstances where they try to make it all about them, only for them to realize that, you know what, the only thing that makes them interesting is that you're the Ancient One's girlfriend, right? Or you're the Ancient One's wife. And some of them will hate that. They might even demand to be in the movies, right? Or to have the kids in the movies. You've ever seen that? A situation where somebody's child can't act, or has no interest in acting or no talent in acting, but they put them in like their movies and they're just terrible. They put them in their show and they're just terrible, right? And you say, well, why would you do that? That's because the counterpart is like, here, put this person in there, ruin the movie, ruin the story. How can you say no to your child? Put on a tutu. How can you say no to your child? And they just ruin the whole thing. That's jealousy, man. And you have no idea how far people will go in the name of sabotage, right? Even if there's no infidelity, of which there's always infidelity or any identifiable infidelity. But if you're doing well and they're not, right? And they see no direct benefit from your success to their wallet, right? No direct link from your success to their wallet. Arguments and fights all the time, and you won't even know where it's coming from. You'll just ask yourself, why do you hate me so much? Because she has no power for accomplishment, right? And so she can't, and she's competitive with you, so she can't defeat you competitively. So what she'll do, she'll just bring you down with arguments and fights. The resolution: address jealousy head on by discussing insecurities or fears with each other. Yeah, right. If you indicate to a counterpart that there's something that you are concerned about. So if you say to a counterpart, I don't like cheating, the counterpart is going to cheat. If you say, I like exercising, the counterpart is going to make you binge watch a series. Like for days, all you'll do is sit and binge watch one series after another, after another. You know, if you want to eat healthy, she'll take you out to eat something fatty. This is what they do. Whatever you tell them, they're going to want to do the opposite. It's a waste of your time expressing yourself to these people, you know? And they do it on purpose. Don't think they don't understand. They do that on purpose. They do everything on purpose. It's all deliberate, right? This is why they want to know. They want to know, okay, what is a problem in your life? And you tell them, well, I'm a little bit insecure about my weight, so I'd like to lose some weight. And all they do is feed you deep fried food, right? And then every time you try to lose a little bit of weight, they'll just give you something more. I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. That's why I'm telling you, you're wasting your time. And you'll see it happen in your relationship. This is why people in relationships that used to be extremely fit, extremely healthy, they get into a relationship and suddenly they're just eating deep fried chicken. Suddenly you're on the internet showing everyone how you dip your deep fried chicken into sauce, right? It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you put fat on fat on fat? But okay. Be open about past issues that may have led to trust problems. Do not be open with these people. Do not be open about anything. Trust no one, right? Practice the deceptive arts. Practice the deceptive arts. If trust is broken, it will be broken. Consider working through it with relationship counseling. Everything is counseling. So this is the final step. You go to counseling, then you break up. Why waste time on the counseling. Why not just break up? Trust building takes time, but clear communication and reliability can rebuild it. You cannot rebuild broken trust. That's what they don't tell you. They say you can rebuild it over time, but you really cannot. There are people who will betray you as a child and you will never trust them as long as you live. You don't care what their faith or their affinity is later on in life. You know these people. This person, when somebody breaks trust, it's not just an indication that they will betray you. The fact that they have the capacity and the ability to do so indicates that the only thing that's missing is the opportunity. And should capacity, intention, and opportunity meet, actions will take place. This is always the case. So, if somebody breaks your trust, you know that they can, you know. And does that mean that they will again? Yes, it means that they will again, right? The fact that they can means that they will. It says different parenting style. Sure, I can see that. This is what happens when you have children with somebody that you shouldn't be having kids with, right? Somebody that you really don't know, you don't share anything, you don't share generational history, you don't share locational history, so you're not from the same country, or you're not from the same religious background, or you're not from the same culture, or you're not from the same race, even, right? I don't mean to bring race into things, but it happens that way, right? Where kids are mixed race, multiracial, multicultural, right? Multi ethnicity. So it happens like that very often. It says here when couples have children, disagreements can arise about how to parent. They often do. Even if you share a lot in common, with somebody, you could still have problems. Like you could see something as a big deal and they could see something as not a big deal. Like you could see stealing as a big deal and they could see it as well. It's a mistake. Everybody makes that. So it really, so you might want to punish a child for something like that, for stealing, for fighting, for lying. And the other person might say, you know what, everybody does it, let it go. It's not that big a deal. And then, they get lied to and then they're going to want to make a big issue out of it. It says differences in discipline, expectations, and values related to raising children can cause stress. Yeah, I can see that. Right? This is what I was saying. So, differences in discipline, expectations. So on the one hand, you want to discipline the child, the other parents wants to let it go. Or on the one hand, you think the child has sports potential, but the other parent might think that they're better off, working on you know, on getting their grades up and creating on learning a skill. But the other parent might think that their child is very talented and they can sing and dance and do sports and they might have a future in that, which most people don't, right? Which really most people don't. You don't have any sports talent, and even if you did, you'd only have it for a very very short amount of time. Resolution: engage in open discussions about parenting philosophies. Again, it's all about open discussions. And these discussions are the reason why you have the problem, right? Because somebody wants to parent in a certain way, and then you say to them, no, don't do things like that. I want them done like this. And now you're having an open discussion about your parenting philosophy, when quite frankly, you should have just got a vasectomy. Freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy so that you don't have to worry about parenting styles. Because I told you, you're going to get this wrong. You're going to get this whole parenting thing completely wrong. Most people do. Most people do, right? And you're going to come in with a philosophy that you made up because you saw your dad do something that has no relevance to the situation right now, and you don't want the same thing to happen one day. Nonsense. Nonsense, man. Just live your life. Listening to each other's viewpoints and seeking common ground is crucial. This is compromise. You have to compromise now. You have to let something go. If necessary, seek guidance of a family who can help you, or counseling, right? Reconcile your differences in parenting. Yeah, you're probably going to need to go for counseling, right? So these are all reasons why people fight, and I can understand. These are all logical. These are really very logical. They make such sense to me. Like, I could see why, if this was an issue in your marriage, you would want to fight over it. Because you don't want your kids missing opportunities, and you also don't want your kids messing up their life by chasing an opportunity that, quite frankly, they're not going to get. And if they did get it, it wouldn't be worth it. It really wouldn't be worth it, right? Lack of quality time. Oh, yes. Yes, you have to spend quality time. You see, you have to nurture a relationship. You have to nurture it, right? And you nurture it with quality time. This goes back to an earlier point. You got to sit there and do, what do they call it? Attentive, active listening. You have to practice active listening. That's what they call it, right? It says life responsibilities such as work, family, and social obligations. This is when you go to the baby showers, social obligation, and you go visit the nephew in who's being incarcerated again, right? Social obligations can leave little time for couples to connect emotionally. Over time, this lack of intimacy and quality time can lead to fights. Oh, I think they're talking about having kids. You see, this is what happens when you're a bachelor. Your mind just goes to certain places. I think they're talking about like real responsibilities, like having kids, not visiting nephews in prison. They mean like bills and that kind of thing. I'm a bachelor for life. Why would I want to worry about bills? But yeah, this is what it's about. Social, work responsibilities. That I hate that word, responsibilities. It's always so heavy. Look how long it is. Look how long that word is, responsibilities. It's not just a heavy word to read, it's also a heavy load to bear. So you got work responsibilities, we all do. Then you got family responsibilities, which are endless. Social responsibilities, because you have a family, and now the two of you can't connect emotionally because all you're doing is fixing other people's problems. And over time, this lack of intimacy and lack of quality time will lead to fights. So now the only time you talk about your feelings is when you're fighting. Man, that's terrible. Guys, get you some quality time, huh? Spend some quality time with people that you love. Or just live the bachelor life, freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy. Then you don't need no quality time, right? Then all your time is quality time. Resolutions. Cultivate the habit of regularly appreciating and acknowledging one another. Tell her you love her from time to time, but not too much, right? Just 5 or 6, 7, 8 times a day. Because if you don't, I don't know how many times you people have to say it. Maybe at the end of every sentence. Hello, I love you. Hi, I love you. How are you? I love you. Fine, I love you. Do you want to get something to eat? I love you. Yeah, but I'm not really that hungry. I love you. Okay, let's just get something to drink. I love you. Yes, that'll be great. I love you too. It's exhausting. It's exhausting, But it has to be a habit of regularly appreciating and acknowledging one another. What a waste of my time. What a real waste of my time. Set aside time for date nights, trips, and even small activities. I have been on date nights and trips and small activities. I don't like none of that stuff. Really, I don't like none of that stuff. All you do is you try out new places to spend money to impress a counterpart. Now again, this is my thing. I know. You might be saying, "Oh, well, you could do something that's for free." There's nothing for free. This is Earth. There's nothing for free. Everything you do with these people is an expense. Everything you do in life is an expense. You need to get that right. You need to come right with that. You need to accept that in your heart and your soul. This is Earth, man. You're not getting nothing for free. So everything you do is either a date, a trip, or a small activity. That's just you spending money. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't go out on trips and small activities, and spend and go out at night, that kind of thing, if you're so inclined. I'm just saying freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy before you do, right? Before you do. But as for doing that to reconnect, all you're going to find is that after spending all that money, you still end up breaking up anyway. And that's what's really going to frustrate you. These date nights, these trips, these small activities, when you look back in hindsight, and this is why counterparts miss relationships. They look back at their past relationships and they realize, oh, I had a guy that took me on dates, trips, and small activities, right? So they may appreciate that in hindsight because they have a guy who's not doing dates, trips, or small activities. But you did. And when you look back, you are filled because you are filled with regret from all the quality time that you have spent, all right? And that cost you money. It says quality time does not have to be extravagant, but it will be, and it's going to be expensive. But it's about being present and engaged with one another. So it's also about active listening. So it's not just about extravagance and trips, it's also about active listening. Don't forget that active listening, guys. You're going to need that in your life. Oh, this is a big one. This is a big one. Number 6, household chores and responsibilities. You know, I in this modern age, despite whatever people would have you think, counterparts are still only paying about 16 to 20% of the bills, and they're paying this 20% of the time. Now, I'm not saying what the situation should be or shouldn't be, right? But they don't want to do 50-50, but then they also want 50-50 in household chores. You see the problem right there? Like, where's the division of labor, division of responsibility, right? So you're putting in, and then you gotta put in, and then you gotta put in. Like, it just never ends. And then you have to do your household responsibility: clean the gutters, trim the trees, cut the grass, clean the windows outside, I suppose, the plumbing, the electric, the doors, anything that breaks, you're the repairman. All those things are equally, you know, important. You do your part, but she doesn't share none of your chores and responsibility. But she expects you to not only pay the bills, to do all your chores and responsibilities, as well as help her with hers. That's how you get to like 20% of skill. That's all you're getting. You're only gonna get maximum 20% input on any serious issue in terms of quantitative outcome, like tangible outcome. But when it comes to opinions and suggestions, you're going to get a million of them and they're going to contradict each other. But in terms of quantitative and qualitative outcome, as well as tangible results, you're going to get nothing from these people. I promise you this. This much I promise you. And anyone that disagrees with me, just go talk to a married man. Just go talk to a married man and see how much he's actually paying to support these people. This person will go to work every day and be able to pay nothing. You hear me? Nothing. It says the division of labor in a household can lead to conflict, especially if one partner feels like they are doing more of their fair share. This often occurs when responsibilities aren't discussed or shared equitably. Even if you discuss them and share them, she's going to complain that you're not helping her. So even if you say, okay, this is your responsibility, this is my responsibility, I'm doing 60%, you're only doing 40%, right? Can we agree? She's going to say yes. She's going to struggle to fulfill that 40%. And if she does, she's going to struggle to fulfill it on the long term. Eventually, you're going to be doing the whole thing by yourself. This is why when you move out as a man, your life just gets so much better because you have less problems and less responsibilities. But she now has to become her own responsibility. You see the problem. Whereas before she was your responsibility and you couldn't handle the strain. Now she is her own responsibility. She's going to collapse. It's always a collapse. It's always a collapse or a tremendous amount of debt. It says the resolution is to have a conversation, another conversation. How many conversations are you people having? All day long talking about your problems. And remember, these problems, these fights, they happen all the time, right? And they happen simultaneously. So you could start a new fight about something else while you're already in the middle of a fight, while you have another fight that's unresolved, right? So you could be in like 6, 7 different fights all at the same time and struggling with money, right? This is an absurd situation. I'm telling you, the winning move is not to play this game. You're not going to win this relationship war, this relationship game, this gamble of yours. You're really not going to win this. I promise you that much. Absolutely. Especially if there's somebody who always thinks that they deserve more and they're doing more, right? Because also it's an issue of, remember, like, these people come from a home where their parents did everything for them because they were children. For the most time, you were a child who were living at home. And as soon as you turn 18, they consider you not a child anymore. So it's like until your 17th birthday, you're a child. You turn 18, you're not a child anymore. And that whole year of 17, all you were was a child. And now you have to, live in an adult world. Compete against your teachers is what they're saying, because pretty much that's what happens, right? So these people spend years teaching you. They don't teach you everything they know. They just teach you what they can, and then off you go into the real world, and you think this is something completely different when in fact you are now competing with your teachers, and yeah, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose badly, right? So it says have a conversation about household duties and make sure both partners agree on the division of work. Oh, terrible. Create a list of tasks. Oh, not a list. Not a list. Oh, I'm so sick of these lists. These people make lists for everything. That's what they do best. That's why they put them in positions where they can, just sit and make a list. If you think about it at work, what do they ask them to do? Oh, make a list of all the students. Make a list of all the customers. Make a list of all the products that we bought. Or make a list of all of this. And all they do is make lists. That's what they do best. Oh, I have a list of all the things I want in a man. I have the things of all the list I want in a relationship. I have a list of, they have endless lists. That's what they do best. They write lists. If you want a counterpart to be successful in your job at your work, get them to make you a list. They'll make you an amazing list. All right. It says create a list of tasks and take turns on sharing responsibilities. Taking turns means you're going to be doing all of her work and she's not going to do any of yours. And eventually she's not going to do any of hers either. An equal partnership involves teamwork, and it's essential that both partners feel valued in maintaining the home. She feels like she shouldn't be doing anything for you at all. She feels like it's your job to be doing things for her the way her father did. Right? Told you these fathers are the problem. They really train these people to have things done for them and not for them to do things for themselves. So they tell them to go look for a man who can do things for you, right? But you do nothing for him. And it's terrible because what's going to happen is that when that man leaves you, because he can see that I'm not getting anything out of this. You know what I mean? I'm not even getting a shirt ironed. He's going to leave you and you're going to go back to be with your father because he was the one who gave you that advice, right? This is really where you're going. You're going back to your father's home, right? Yeah, teamwork. Good luck with all that. You're not getting no teamwork from these people. Number 7, differences in intimacy needs. Yeah, this is a big one. People always fight about intimacy. It's always the intimacy, right? Usually somebody doesn't want it and somebody wants it more. Or somebody doesn't want it from this person, and it's a problem. It says intimacy, incompatibility. There we are. Incompatibility, right? You're not comparable. Compatible, I beg your pardon. That's what it is. I'm thinking comparable. No, no, no. You're not compatible. That's what the word is in my mind. Sexual incompatibility is another common cause of couple conflict, whether it's a difference in libido, mismatched desires. Yeah, mismatched desires. In other words, you desire her, she desires somebody else. But if you desire somebody else, then that's a problem because you have to desire her while somebody else desires her too. Right? So if you find that she's being desired by somebody else and you find that undesirable, that's a problem. Right? For me, that's really what it is. Like if somebody's being like if we are in a relationship and you're intimate with somebody else, that's it. That's it. Really, that's it. Like I'm not staying past that. I'm really not having that discussion. I really don't want to know what happened. I don't need all that. I really don't need all that. You can go back to be with him, right? And then see how that continues, right? But usually it never continues. It always ends the next day. It really always ends like soon thereafter. So, you could always tell that it was just about being spiteful. But mismatched desires, definitely. Always gonna happen, right? When you're incompatible, you're gonna have mismatched desires. Dissatisfaction, probably, right? I mean, if you are not getting it enough, right, and they think you're getting too much, one of you is gonna feel dissatisfied, right? Unaddressed intimacy needs, all that can lead to resentment and frustration. And what is the solution for this, you might ask? It says the resolution is be honest and open about your intimacy, desires, and concerns. Yes, of course, a conversation. That's what you need. You need to sit down along with everything else that you're talking about, and you need to be open and honest about your intimacy, desires, and concerns. All you're going to do is start another argument. That's all you're going to do. Really, really, that's what it's about. It says sometimes couples may need to explore different approaches to intimacy. Oh, that's going to be a problem. To seek help from an intimacy therapist. What is an intimacy therapist? What are you going to do? What are you going to do, Mr. Intimacy Therapist? No, I'm not doing that. There's no way I'm going to I'm going to pay somebody to tell me about my member, my colonel, my sergeant, my general. I'm going to let this guy tell me what to do with myself? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And what kind of job is that anyway? You spend all day talking about the intimacy in other people's lives. This cannot be real. And how do you resolve this? So they're not being intimate, and what's your solution, doctor? They should be intimate. Give me a break. This is not a real job. This is not a real job. Do not go see somebody who says they're an intimacy therapist. This is not even a made-up job. It's a title. You know what? I'm going to call myself an intimacy therapist. There, from now on, I'm an intimacy therapist. My name is the Ancient One, and I am an intimacy therapist. You see how that works? It's just that easy. You can just make it up. Right? I'm not a divorce lawyer no more. I'm an intimacy therapist now. Maintaining a healthy intimate relationship requires mutual respect, patience, and understanding. Your relationship is over. Your relationship is definitely over. When you start requiring mutual respect, patience, and understanding, and seeking an intimacy therapist like myself, yeah, your whole situation is over. It was always going to be temporary anyway. I don't know anyone who has a permanent relationship for life and doesn't live to regret it. You're always going to be temporary anyway. Why force it? Why force the issue? This is my personal advice to you as an intimacy therapist. You know, I'm telling you, why force the issue, man? She doesn't want you, you want her. Just go to get somebody who wants you, and then maybe you'll want that person. All right, who knows how this whole thing can play out. But in my professional experience and my long history as an intimacy therapist, I'm telling you, just let her go, get a new one, you'll be fine. But start by freezing your sperm and getting a vasectomy. This is my personal and professional advice as an intimacy therapist, right? Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. Number 8 is unresolved past issues. Past issues, you're fighting over past issues. Yeah, this happens all the time. They bring up something that you resolved, and then I had a situation where a counterpart brought up something from like years past. And I looked at her and asked, and I thought, man, didn't we like resolve this? Like when we resolved it, we agreed it was okay, and then we shook hands and moved on. Right? We realized that things were actually better, not worse. And then she brought up the issue, and I was like, wait a minute, are we having the same conversation again, or didn't we resolve this? But yeah, that's what they do. They bring up past issues out of nowhere for absolutely no reason, for boredom. Past issues, whether personal or relationship related, can resurface during arguments. They often do, and it's always the argument that the person will scream, "I had a vasectomy" or whatever. That's why you gotta keep cool, man. You gotta know to keep that vasectomy quiet. But yeah, the counterpart loves to bring up issues during arguments. It's distracting. So like now you're fighting over one thing, but then something else comes up, and it's like, wait a minute, and then they go back to fighting over that one thing. It's like, no. I told you, it's like you're juggling problems. That's really what you're doing. You're dealing with multiple things at the same time coming at you at at various speeds, and you're probably going to drop a few. You're probably going to drop a lot. When these unresolved issues are triggered, they can lead to a cycle of fights without closure. They will. When you trigger people's past issues, especially after they thought that they could trust you with that issue, that's betrayal. That's really a form of betrayal. Resolution for this problem is to take the time to resolve. You got to resolve the resolution. You got to resolve past issues and trauma before they build up. Oh, good luck with that. Oh, good luck with that. You could have an issue that you thought is resolved, and then the person will unresolve it. And then bring it up, and then they say, you know what, I dealt with it, but I didn't deal with it enough. So now you want to delve back into the problem, into the frustration that you felt. I don't know. These people have strange proclivities and inclinations, wild habits, When these unresolved issues are triggered, they can lead to a cycle of fights without closure. Oh, I like that. Fights without closure. These are endless fights. You just keep fighting over the same issue over and over, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years until you break up. And then they bring up that issue and they say, well, this is the issue why we broke up. Like, no, the issue isn't that. The issue why we broke up is that you wouldn't let it go. You wouldn't discuss any other topic. You wouldn't discuss any other issue. You weren't concerned with anything else. You were concerned with one situation that you've been milking for attention for years and years and years. And what do we have to do here? We have to take time to resolve past issues and traumas before they build up. It's not going to happen. Acknowledging and confronting past wounds is a healthy, constructive manner. I beg your pardon. In a healthy and constructive manner can help both partners move forward. This probably means another conversation, right? Every time you hear healthy and constructive, just know it means a conversation. That means you got to be sitting there for hours and hours listening to this person talk about an issue that you've heard her talk about over and over before for years. Oh, that sounds terrible. That really sounds like a waste of my time. Acknowledging and confronting past wounds. Sorry, we just read that. It says couples in therapy is also beneficial in addressing long-standing unresolved problems. So all their problems can be resolved by therapy. You guys aren't having intimacy, therapy. You guys are not talking, therapy. House isn't cleaned, therapy. You got problems from your past, guess what? Therapy. Money issues, therapy. Jealousy, therapy. Parenting style, therapy. Lack of quality time, I know. Let's spend that quality time going to therapy. This is the problem, right? The solution is the problem. The solution is the problem, right? You go to therapy, your marriage is finished. Therapy doesn't work, that means you have no other solution. Shouldn't have gotten married to begin with. But therapy, I don't know if therapy is the solution for you. A lack of appreciation is something that every man complains about, and no counterpart has any intention on showing you any appreciation, right? Because she shows you appreciation, she believes that you're gonna use that to undermine her. So if she undermines you first, right, and then later you respond with anger, it just confirms her her contentious issues. You know, I don't even know why you would get into relationships, if I have to be honest with you. You're not going to get richer, and obviously, you're not going to get any intimacy, not to the extent that you want. And you have to spend your whole life listening to people whose interests, are not aligned with yours. I really don't recommend relationships at all. Like, I don't even think relationships are real things. A marriage is real, it's a legally binding contract. But a relationship, man, you're just wasting your time. Really, you're just wasting your time. And I know a lot of people feel like this, but that's because it's true. That's because it's true. And you're not getting any appreciation, right? And it's like you do so much and you pay so much. This is why they always take you to alimony, I'm telling you. If you didn't do enough for them, they would simply not bother taking you and putting you on child support and putting you on alimony and taking you to court. It wouldn't be worth their while. But because they struggle so much, it's not just a small struggle, it is like a complete defeat, right, from where they were. They have to keep bringing you back into their lives, right, so that you can keep helping and keep supporting and keep funding them, especially economically. They're not going to pull this off economically, right? So but what they'll do is go out of their way to be entitled, ungrateful, dismissive, to the point where you're like, you know what, fine, do it yourself. And they can't, really. And they can't. And everybody knows they can't. But, and it's not the fact that you know that they can't. It's because they keep disrespecting you. And I don't care who you are or what your situation is. You marry anyone, or you're in a situation where, and I said this before, like, if it was another man saying the things that your counterpart says to you, right? Even a tenth of the things. If another man came and called you stupid, that would be a serious problem. If another man came and called you stupid, which is something that every knee bender gets called at some point in maybe not directly, but your counterpart might say something like, oh, that's not, or that's stupid, or do you really think that's smart? Or something where they insult your intelligence. But if somebody had done that to you, any other man had done that to you, that would be a problem, right? That would be a problem. And that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. This is a person who can't even feed themselves, but they have the audacity to insult your intelligence, right? So, and then when you do leave, it becomes clear that this person cannot even feed themselves. They won't change anything. I promise you, they won't change anything, not in terms of system, not in terms of routine, not in terms of style of the way that they do things. As soon as you leave, all they'll do is to complain about how dad used to do things like this and dad used to do things like that. That's all they'll do is talk about it because all the other ways simply don't work. Every other thing that they try to do creates a mess. That's why they always do like that, you know. But it says here over time, the appreciation that was once expressed in in a relationship can fail. If one or both partners feel taken for granted, they may feel resentful, leading to arguments or a breakup. Like, if you're paying all the bills, man, those people should be grateful. I don't care what they think they do. There is nothing that is equal to paying bills. I will say that again. I don't care what they've done. I don't care if you've had kids for this man. Those kids are not equal to him paying your bills for the rest of your life. It is not equal because he can leave and you can put him on child support and then you can see that even the government, even the law, does not equal his income to those kids. They'll take a fraction of his income to indicate that that is the equivalent of what that child is compared to this man's capacity to earn and pay bills. This is my proof and evidence that his bills that he pays are worth more than a counterpart's capacity to get inseminated and have kids. That much I can promise you. Because you can pay bills that can raise a person from birth to adulthood easily. And you can do it for several of them. So if you can do it for 5, 6 kids, pay bills and raise them, clearly your capacity to pay bills is worth more than one of these, right? The value of those bills is way higher. This is right there in front of you. So what's the solution for being insulted and disrespected? Make a habit of expressing gratitude for each other. Small gestures of appreciation, like saying thank you. Imagine saying thank you for tasks completed or not acknowledging the effort the other person puts into the relationship can go a long way in maintaining a healthy dynamic. Can you imagine? I would not be satisfied with thank you. I would not pay your bills, pay your medical, pay your house, your car, your internet, your phone, your clothes, your entertainment, your leisure, your comfort, your warmth, your air conditioning, your heater, your clothes, your bed, your blanket, your table, your chair, your sofa, your TV, your satellite TV, your cable TV, your PlayStation, all of that with the games and the downloads, your phones, your tablets, your computers. I could go on and on. And then all you tell me is thanks. Thanks. Nah, I'm not accepting that. I am not accepting that. I am not accepting the fact that you cannot pay for these bills by yourself. I don't care how much money you make. The statistics are there. The counterpart is paying 16% of the bills in any household, and they're doing it 16% of the time. So they're not paying no bills. And all you get is a thanks. And quite frankly, you're not even getting that. For me, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. I would just stop paying the bills. No way. No way. I'm gonna need a little bit more than a thank you. I'm gonna need a little bit more than 2 words. I really am. I'm gonna need so much more. Otherwise, I'm better off paying nothing, right? Because that thank you, if I wasn't paying anything and nobody said thank you to me for anything, to me, I would feel that that's a fair exchange. But for me to pay all these bills and all I get is a little thank you, just some words like thanks, and sometimes you don't even get that, I would not be okay with that. And maybe that's why I'm single. That's why I'm single. You know what I mean? Like, even the value of a date, man, to plan the date, the excursion, the trip, the activity, the whatever it is that you plan, a thank you is not sufficient. A thank you is really not sufficient. I know you can say, well, I had other people that would want to take me on a date and I took my time out to spend this time with you. Okay. But are you telling me that if you went with somebody else and they took you on a date, you weren't going to thank them either? And if you did, that's all they'd get, just a thanks? No, no. Better not go on the date. Best to just not go on the date. If all you're getting is a thank you for spending money and time, yes, you're spending time, but I'm also spending time and I'm also spending money. And I know you might say, well, you wanted to spend time with me. No, no, not to this level. This is an insignificant platitude. Thank you. This means nothing, man. This means absolutely nothing. I'm telling you the truth, and you know I'm right. Not for paying bills, buying furniture, funding cars, funding lifestyles. Three, four, five, six people at a time. And you get a thank you, not even as much as a high five. They don't even pick up their hand to tap you on the shoulder. You just get a quick thanks. Thanks for paying the bills. That's it. No, no, that's not sufficient. And you know I'm right. You know that's not sufficient, even for you. Number 10 is different goals and values. As individuals grow, their values and goals may evolve, so people change. So you're going to fight a person because they've changed, and so have you. Oh, man, these relationships are just a waste of time. I can't believe how many people are in them. I really can't believe how many people are contending with these emotional issues that, quite frankly, are unresolved and can't be resolved. How do you deal with people who have goals and values? I have an individual goal. What does that mean? We're a family. There's no more individual goals. I have individual values. No. In a family? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I have unrealistic standards, right? For a person who doesn't want to get married. But surely we should have unified goals if we are all working together as a family. But I don't know. It says this can cause conflict if partners, yes, everything causes conflict. If partners find that they no longer align in terms of long term plans, such as career ambition, having children, or even where to live. So, you want to buy a house and be stable. She wants to go on a cruise, which is going to wipe out your savings and put you both in debt, right? For like a year or two. Or you could buy a house, right? So, good luck. Good luck with those long term plans, with those ambitions. And then, as for how to raise kids, man, you guys are going to struggle. If she wants to raise your child as an independent thinker, and you know they're going to be squashed because your child is not tall or strong enough. They're tiny and small and they still got a lot of growing to do. And there they are being an independent thinker. They're going to get thumped. All that independent thinking, you are going to get thumped. And the dad knows that, right? And the mother might know that. And the dad might think, no, no, no. We're raising a superhero. Oh, don't let your parents let you think you're a superhero with special powers. Oh, you're going to get thumped out here. And it's going to hurt, right? The resolution for this. Discuss your goals and values regularly. Another discussion. Another conversation. Guys, stop having conversations. Stop stop having conversations with these people, man. You know what I mean? You've had all these conversations and they haven't resolved anything. What more will another conversation do? Right? So it says discuss your goals and values regularly, especially if they change over time. If differences arise, it's important to have open discussions. No, it's not. Don't have no discussions about how to navigate these changes together. Compromise and mutual respect are key to working through significant differences. Oh, compromise. You see, that's where me and the knee benders we part. I'm not good with all that compromise, man. I've tried compromise and all it's led me was to a situation where I compromised more. And then I tried not compromising and I found that the counterpart was just also unwilling to not compromise. All they wanted to do was compromise standard, compromise quality, compromise. And that's how they live. It's just one compromise after another. And everybody has to compromise around them, you know. So apparently, a discussion is the solution to all your problems. And let's read the conclusion. While arguments are inevitable in relationships, yes, they are. Listen to that statement very carefully. Arguments are inevitable. They are bound to happen. You are going to blow up at this person, right? And they are going to cause this. I don't care how cool, calm, or successful you are. They are going to cause a blow up. It is inevitable, right? And this confirms it as well as I have known it and confirmed it many times on this platform. It says, while they are inevitable, it's how couples handle them that determines their success. By understanding the common causes of conflict, the counterpart, and implementing strategies to address them, the strategies won't work. Couples can build stronger, more resilient relationships. All you're going to do is suffer together in misery. That's all you're going to do. A resilient relationship is one where two people can suffer through the misery that they've caused each other. Now, just consider that you don't have to be in a relationship. Like, you don't have to deal with any of these issues, right? And if you weren't in relationships, all these problems would simply go away. Consider that. Just consider the list of problems that we went through. The headache that I know you must be feeling right now after going through this list with me. And consider that you don't have to face any of these issues. Right? While I'm reading them, I'm actually pretty relaxed and calm. Right? But I know that you're living this situation. I'm telling you, you don't have to. And at the end, you're going to find out this was all for nothing. Right? And then they're going to tell you, oh, it's not that you have a problem. It's how you deal with it. No, it's not. You don't have to have these problems, man. You don't need any of this. If you freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. That's the solution, right? Now you gotta find. The common causes of conflict and implement strategies to address them. The counterpart. That's the common cause of all your conflict. Address it by letting them go. It says couples can build stronger, more resilient relationships. Oh, resilient. I don't like that word. It just indicates your capacity to survive through struggle. I'm not one for struggle. I'm not struggling for these people. I'm not struggling for a counterpart. No way. It's crucial to communicate openly. There you go. More conversations. I'm not even going to address that. Show appreciation and work together to resolve issues that will arise. If conflicts persist, and they will, or become more intense, they will, seek professional help through couples online counseling or the best psychologist near me. From Talk to Angel is the best way to move forward. Remember, the goal is not to avoid disagreement entirely. What? I can't believe they just said that. The goal is not to avoid disagreement entirely, but to develop the tools to handle them with understanding and care. So the point is not to waste your time, but to develop the tools to waste your time with, what do they say? Understanding and care. I must waste my time with understanding and care. I just want you to think about all these things that we've just read and consider that you really don't have to be in any of these types of issues. Man, you really don't need to be in a relationship and go through all these things. You could just live the bachelor life. And I understand that if you haven't got your vasectomy, right, and you're considering that bending the knee might be the best outcome, it may very well be. It's better than having a child with a counterpart and not being able to maintain that, right? The last thing you need in your life is having a child out there and having people looking for you for legal liability and that kind of thing. So freeze your sperm and get a vasectomy and avoid having kids altogether, right? But if you do have kids and if you are in a relationship, or you can expect some problems, especially with like parenting style. Oh, that's gonna be a problem non-stop, right? And these are the issues that people deal with. And I'm telling you, I don't deal with not a single one of these issues. Not a single one of these issues, simply because I don't have a counterpart, right? I mean, it's one thing, and it's easy for me to say because I'm too old. I'm too old anyway, right? So it's not a matter of, I'm in the game and I'm running the field, you know. The truth is I'm too old, and I'm grateful. And I'm grateful because I have memories of this nonsense. I have memories of this nonsense, and I think to myself, you know what? Did I really need to go through that? And there's a part of me that thinks, you know what? Perhaps you wouldn't have the knowledge that you have had you not gone through that. But on the other hand, perhaps you would have jumped that and then gone ahead and got somebody pregnant, which would have been a worse outcome. So the fact that I'm here now with no wife, no kids, and no problems, that to me, that's a win. I'm taking that as a victory and I'm running with it, right? If you have a wife, you have a kid, you have an ex-wife, you have child support, you have alimony, you have lawyer fees. I mean, that's a list of losses, you know. And if you have a counterpart and you're still paying bills and paying for trips and small activities as they discuss them, which are all just as expensive, doesn't matter the size of the activities, they're all expensive. Ultimately, you're gonna wake up one day and add it all up, as I've done many, many times, and realize, man, I overpaid. I paid way too much. I put in way too much. I tolerated way too much, and I didn't get anything out of it. Really, once the relationship ends, what you have in your hands, that's what you keep. When the relationship ends, what you have in your hands, that's what you keep. And you will have nothing in your hands. Can't carry a house, can't carry a car. You know what I mean? So freeze your sperm, get a relationship. I beg your pardon. Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. Forget relationships. That's where my mind was going. Right? Freeze your sperm, get a vasectomy. Forget relationships. These things aren't even real. And you're talking to somebody who's been in them. And the way they ended was, quite frankly, you get up, you walk away, and you stop calling and you stop texting. And that's it. The only thing that holds this thing together is a text message and a phone call. That is not a contract. That is not binding. And you've committed yourself to thin air. But if you get a vasectomy, you'll see that vasectomy is real. You freeze your sperm, you'll see that that sperm is still real. And the philosophy will prove real too. I'm the Ancient One, I'm the Bachelor Supreme, and this is the end of the video. And again, I appreciate your time and your attention. As always, I will, from the bottom of my heart, I wish you a lovely, lovely day.